Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Face Your Ears podcast. My name's Rich Bozic. I'm joined here with Mixmaster Elite Justin Hochella. How you doing, sir?
Good. I feel like I need some horns for that. Like, hey, I'm doing well. How are you, Rich?
Things are going smoothly here. Prepping for our big concert coming up. Rehearsals are in full swing. Recording prep is happening. Writing is happening. Teaching and learning is happening. It's great here. How about you?
Yeah, I am busy. So I've been working on new music myself. I've been in the studio lately working on music under Man-Made Random, which is my solo project that I do. I'm also busy with Same Not Same, which is a project I do with my friend Jay, and we'll be making an appearance at the Cleavetoberfest coming up. So by the time this episode publishes, Cleavetoberfest will be like less than a week away. So it's coming up quickly. So I'm excited about that.
Didn't you guys just recently also release a cover?
We did. Yeah, it was quite an interesting journey. We did a cover of Head Like a Hole, a classic Nine Inch Nails song. So both of us are huge fans of Nine Inch Nails. We both saw them live recently. I saw them just last month, and Jay did as well. And yeah, it was phenomenal. So yeah, we wanted to put a cover song together mainly for the live situation that we're going to be in. So we thought, hey, it'd be fun to play a song that we love, that people will recognize. So it's out there now on all streaming platforms.
We will link it. We will link it. Yes.
We will. Outside of that, I was looking at the stats on our podcast here, and
we've surpassed 3,000 listens.
Oh my God.
And we're well on our way to 5,000.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
I think that's incredible. I guess it's surreal to think that thousands of people have listened to us. That's really cool. So I'm really excited about that.
Or maybe one person a lot.
One person has a compulsive downloading problem. I don't know.
We'd like to thank our wives for buying a bunch of phones and starting a bot listening, a bot farm.
Podcast. No, kidding aside, it's great to see that the podcast has that many, and we're excited to hit that 5,000 milestone mark. Speaking of stats and so forth, I was looking through downloads of our episodes, and it was interesting in that one of the most popular episodes by far was our episode Seed to Song. I think it made sense for us to look at that and say, could we continue to pull on that thread? And so here we are, dear listener, pulling on that thread today with you. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about taking that further. So this idea of song scaffolding, and how we can continue to build out a song. If you have a seed of an idea, we're going to take that even further with song scaffolding today.
The first thing I want to talk about is this idea of structure. This idea that Justin mentioned earlier of song scaffolding kept coming up. There's a multi-layered approach to this that we're going to talk about today. Songs can come into being in many different ways. We're just going to give one way that you could possibly go about this process. So first thing I want to talk about is the idea of strophic versus through composed song. So what a strophic song is when you have basically the same music that repeats over and over again with different lyrics. Oftentimes verse chorus kind of situation. But even the verses sometimes can have a very similar melody each time you come back to them, not just the chorus. And then you have this other idea called through composed, which is the song constantly evolving and changing. Sometimes the sections never come back. You would experience a lot of this maybe in the prog rock genre. I know there's some Dream Theater songs out like that. that start in one place and end up in a completely different place by the end. These are two kinds of structures that you can deal with when you're starting to build a song. So today we're going to talk a little more about the idea of, I guess, a more strophic kind of song, and how do we approach this?
Would you say so? Strophic is more kind of what people are used to in terms of like pop music or rock music, that sort of thing?
A lot of times when you're listening to stuff on the top 10 list, oftentimes when you hear these songs, you'll notice that there'll be a repetition of the same melody coming back in the different sections.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes. So diving right in. So one approach that comes to mind for me is to find a song, a strophic song, if you will, so maybe some sort of pop or rock song that you like, whatever it might be, and then place that in your DAW of choice, be it Logic Pro, Ableton Live, Cubase, whatever it might be, and really start to analyze it. So break it down to understand where is the intro, where is the verse, where is the chorus or the bridge, etc., etc. And this can just give you like a linear kind of structure. Not that you're necessarily going to copy that same structure exactly, but again, we're talking about scaffolding. So it's helpful to just get a sense of, okay, this Chapel Roan song that I really like, or whatever it is, put that in, analyze it, get a sense of the structure.
And remember, we're approaching this from the point of view of someone who is new to this and who's just getting into it all. Like, you got your studio set up, you want to get into songwriting.
Yes.
So continue.
This is for somebody, who's just figuring this out and learning. This is a great sort of method to approach this. There's a producer I really admire. Her name is Chris Bradley, and she has put together a really great approach called the Simple Method, SIMPLE method, which takes a lot of what I'm talking about in terms of this structured format and it puts it in place so that you can use it to analyze something, understand it, but then turn it into your own song structure. And I'm going to butcher what she has to say about it, but I'll sum it up and then I'll leave the link to the video so you can check it out and dive deeper into it. It's a fairly long video. It's 40 minutes, but it's definitely well worth watching. Just a quick summary of it. So the acronym SIMPLE stands for structure. So you want to look at the structure in terms of the arrangement and the form. So like we were talking about before, that sort of strophic sort of structure, verse, chorus, etc. Understand that. I is for instrumentation. So listening, like this is a really key thing, to listen for the instruments being used: drums, bass, guitars, piano, synths, samples, loops, whatever.
So breaking down the instrumentation.
And then M is for mood. So major or minor, is this going to be like a happy, sad song? What genre is it going to be in? What key is it going to be in? And then pre-production is laying out the plan, assembling a template that you might have. We don't have enough time in this podcast to go into what all that means, but basically setting the stage before you just dive in blindly. And then L is for leave that stuff behind, so you can toss the template out the window, if you will. So once you start, to me what that means is once you start breaking stuff down in an analytical way, creativity starts to emerge. And you can start to leave certain things behind and go your own way and try different things. And finally, E is for execute, which is moving forward and starting to put everything in place. So this was a really butchered explanation of that, but it's a great start for somebody who's just staring at a blank page. So like I said, check out the link. It's really cool. It's a really great method to kind of get started and inspired.
So we mentioned that beginners could get some stuff from this, but I think also people who are more advanced can get some stuff out of this by revisiting perhaps a way you might have tried before, or revisiting or starting off a new way of going about things.
I really like it for trying to work on a song in a genre that you don't normally work on. So having a structure like this, if you're someone who's very seasoned and you never write country music or you never write rock music or whatever, this method is really helpful for you to have a systematic approach to be like, oh, okay, this is how I can do it. This is how I can put something together like this. So really cool. I just really enjoyed that approach.
So there might be some people who would look at this and be like, well, you're just taking that song and you're copying it. Well, no, we're not saying rewrite the same song. What we're saying is, if you're new at this especially, you have to start to develop a language and a way of looking at songs so that eventually you can branch off and start being
absolutely
creative on your own. So the analogy like to use oftentimes with my students is the analogy of like what fine artists do, like painters and sculptors, and especially painters, where they will oftentimes train for years recreating techniques that masters before them have already established with regard to how to look at the subject that you're painting. You know, even just painting inanimate objects and drawing and painting inanimate objects in front of you to try to develop your skills. So copying the masters can be very useful. So like if we have successful producers that are doing things nowadays and you want to be able to do things in the pop world, you might find those people that you admire and do this method that Justin is talking about, bring it into the DAW, break it down, look and see what they're doing, and be able to start to have an idea of how this stuff is happening. And then eventually, after you've done that enough times, hopefully you can start to learn to deviate from that and create your own original ideas.
Yeah. I actually did this sort of thing with a Lady Gaga song called Abracadabra. And it was fascinating. It was challenging. It was harder than I thought. So the idea was like, can I more or less recreate this song Abracadabra by Lady Gaga? And I basically used this approach where I put it in the DAW, I analyzed the sections, and the next part was to sort of break down, okay, what are the instruments? And that's a lot easier said than done. To like go section by section, really listen critically and be like, okay, what am I hearing here? What instruments am I hearing here? And that's the next phase of this, I think, which is to really develop a keen ear and listen to the instruments that are going on. And for me, what was cool was I was able to do that, but at the same time, there was full like creative license for me to be like, I don't want that kind of instrument here. I want this kind of instrument, you know, and I could start to change things up to my own preference, if you will. And it ended up being like a more or less like a remix of her song, but that approach really brought to light like how interesting that exercise can be, and how it's such fertile ground for creativity. Because I could have very easily like just gone off on my own path and completely abandoned the song Abracadabra and then come up with my own kind of pop song using that structure and some of the instrumentation. And like you were saying before, like you have to copy the masters first before you can develop your own sort of skill set and so on. It's like, it made me think about this idea that how many pop songs have the exact same chord progression? It's crazy, right? The 1, 4, 5 kind of thing or whatever. There's so many songs that use the same chords, but people come up with all kinds of different melodies and instrumentation and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I think it's great for somebody who's learning this craft to have the ability to listen, to analyze, and develop their own sort of taste and style and skill set based off of that, because I think that will naturally emerge through this kind of process.
Expanding on and deviating from the original is a very important thing. What I'm hearing you say, Justin, so it's, once again, we can't stress enough, it's not about just mimicking completely what you hear. It's about getting inspired. It's about digging into it a little bit, seeing what is in the recipe so that you could get ideas. And sometimes that could inspire a whole nother thing, right? And follow the impulse, go for it. This is what we want, right? We want this inspiration to happen, and we want the creative ideas and the impulses to guide you in that process.
I mentioned this a bit earlier, but what is the mood of the song that you're going for? I think that can help direct the outcome. So is it happy, sad, thoughtful, energetic, that kind of thing. Key signature, like changing the key signature, surprisingly, will totally change the trajectory of the song. For example, if you're a singer and you're in a key signature that isn't comfortable for you, that can maybe push you into a place that forces you to think differently. Or it could make you say, like, this is the wrong key signature. I'm going to change it to a different one that I'm more comfortable in. That's something that can totally change the feel of a song. Also, I find personally that if I just set out and say, like, I want to do this song in a really fast, like 160 beat per minute tempo, like it totally changes everything for me. So like time signature along with tempo can really spark creative ideas. I glossed over time signature, but I think we're so used to like 4/4 in our music. So that standard like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of beat. But playing with different time signatures can open up different avenues in your mind and your creative outlet. So trying 6/8 or 3/4 or 2/4 or whatever, like it can, or something more like you mentioned prog rock before, Rich. Do some like prog rock, like 7/8 or something like that. To just challenge yourself and go into different realms of music that you wouldn't normally. So I think these are just some of the things that for me are sparks of creativity. So they seem so simple and arbitrary, but they are anything but.
Yeah, this is all in that idea of scaffolding, the kind of decisions you make early on in the process that could lead to interesting ideas.
Yeah.
That's great, Justin. I mean, there's really no set order to this stuff, right or wrong way to start. I just get in there and experiment a little bit. We're just trying to expand on that creative process. I have a question for you because you are the Logic man here. Logic, the DAW, right? And I guess regular Logic too.
Yes, I'm quite the Sherlock Holmes.
I guess. So what are features that can help us in this process in Logic? Is there anything you could throw out there for us?
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think a lot of DAWs share these types of features, but one set of features I really like are markers and arrangement. I guess they're sections. In Logic, you can create markers, which are literally just flags in the timeline to demarcate like anything you want. I generally use them to write something like intro or verse 1, just to designate a section of the song. And so it's more or less like a note on the timeline to tell you something about that part of the song. Arrangement sections in Logic are a little bit different in that you can have an arrangement marker that's for, say, the chorus. And what's cool is like you can manipulate that entire thing or duplicate that entire like chorus, in this case, move it to a different part of the song. So like if you have 10 tracks in your chorus, you can just drag the chorus to different parts just to like quickly preview or hear, hey, what would it sound like if the chorus followed the first verse immediately instead of there being some sort of, I don't know, segue or whatever it might be in the song.
Oh, that's great. That could save you a lot of time chopping, right?
Absolutely. So a lot of chopping, copying, and pasting. And you can actually, in Logic, convert the markers to arrangement sections. So that's helpful too.
Man, that would have been helpful to me a few weeks ago. You learn something new all the time,
those
man.
are really handy, especially in this sort of realm. Tempo and key signature are front and center at the top of your Logic Pro window or in your DAW, whatever it might be. So you can manipulate tempo and key signature pretty easily there. Something that I think some folks overlook or maybe aren't thinking about, especially if you're newer to this kind of stuff, is automation, especially for things like tempo. Automation is generally thought of as like fading something out like volume or like bringing an effect in, that kind of thing, but you can also use it for tempo. So if you want to slow the track down, you can even automate things like your time signature, that kind of thing. That's pretty cool. Another great thing that a lot of DAWs have, including Logic, is the notes field. There's like a space to put notes in. So this could be like lyrics or ideas that you have, things you might want to try out. There's a metronome. Sounds really basic and simple. That can really help the recording process, kind of speed things along, making sure that your recordings are adhering to the tempo, which can save time later on for sure, so that you don't have to edit like crazy. And then I love all the stock sounds and loops. So Logic has a ton of these.
I can't like sing the praises of that enough.
Thousands.
It's a huge library.
Yeah. So those to me are such a great avenue of inspiration, just to sift through those. I love too that in Logic, the audio loops and so forth have different categories like genre, or even like, what is it? Feeling or descriptors. That's it. So you can sort it by instrument or genre or descriptors. And descriptors are things like relaxed, intense, dark, dissonant, melodic. So, it can help you dial in what it is you're looking for. So there's like really cool tools to help you with that. And one thing I also love is the chord track in Logic Pro. So this is something, I don't know if a lot of DAWs have this yet, but Logic allows you to program in the chord progression of a song, and you can easily generate parts from those chords. So like you can put in like a virtual bass player or keyboard player, for example, and not that you would just click and be done, but like we're talking about, it's about creating scaffolding. So if you're like, okay, I want to see what a bass line would sound like here, and you can dial in the right sort of bass part based on that chord progression. So yeah, those are some just quick hits. I think within like a DAW like Logic, there's a lot of really great tools in there to help build that scaffolding and inspire you and flesh out the creative ideas that you're coming up with.
Nice. So just to kind of sum things up here, today we talked a little bit about song scaffolding, and we touched upon the idea of a strophic versus a through composed song. And then Justin introduced the idea of the simple method, and we'll link to that video that fleshes that out more, which is cool. It's always cool to have another way of approaching this stuff. Then we talked a little bit about breaking down the structure and analyzing what's happening in the track and the details of the track, and using that to inspire creativity and to deviate, to start thinking of your own ideas. Justin also mentioned the idea of mood and how you can use the structural things like tempo and key to help craft the mood of the song. And then to close it out here, Justin just mentioned a bunch of tools you could use in Logic to help with these things. And I'm sure there are other things in other DAWs that you could discover as well that can help you. This episode was just designed to talk about the general idea of song scaffolding. We're going to get into more detail, I guess, precise detail about specifics with regard to songwriting in episodes to come. We've talked about this. We have some ideas on the horizon. Along with all of this, if by chance, listener, you need some extra help with regard to getting your songs together and getting your projects off the ground, and maybe have a deeper discussion of structure and scaffolding, you could always find my friend Justin here at www.manmaderandom.com and perhaps get him on board with your project.
Yeah, I'd be happy to meet with you one-on-one, and we could dive into some of these features and techniques that we discussed here in the episode. So we'll put a link to my website there. And if you are so inclined and are curious to dive deeper into all of this, reach out.
Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. Yeah, there's always so much to talk about. So I'm excited, and I look forward to unpacking more of this with you in detail in a future episode to come. So with that, we'll wrap it up. And once again, everyone, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Take care. Thank you for listening to the Face Your Ears podcast. If you found this episode entertaining and informative, be sure to share and leave a review. Also, check us out on social media and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. For more information related to our podcast, head on over to www.faceyourears.com. Links can be found in the show description. And remember, whether you're a musician just starting out or a seasoned professional looking to talk shop, it's time to face your ears.